All right, folks, welcome on into another edition, the final edition of the High School Huddle for this school year. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones, and we have made it to the end of the school year. We've handed out all our trophies, all our ribbons, all our banners are being raised, a handful of trophies we brought back from Section 5. And what a finish to the journey it was there, Carl.
Man, what a finish it was. We had teams, first evers for a few teams, and a couple teams that had a magical year and didn't end the way that they wanted. I mean, brought home, I think 9 track and field individuals brought home a state title, so shout out to them. It was just all around fun spring season to cover, even though, like we've reiterated it several times on this podcast, it felt like it was 2 weeks, but that's it flew by, but it was very enjoyable. And for someone like myself, first year being able to enjoy some lacrosse, that was fun. All in all, an exciting season to say the least.
Yeah, our first year of the High School Huddle podcast. We appreciate everybody listening and watching all season long. We got one more great show for you. We're going to do another awards show, hand out some awards for the spring season. We had, like we already previously mentioned, we had some great champions from this year. So plenty of people to get recognized. But before we hand out our awards, we're going to recap the awards that already got handed out on this show. As we mentioned, we had 3 teams win state championships this year in team sports for the spring sports. We had McQuaid baseball going back to back all the way back to 2019. And then we had a couple first-time champs. We had the Victor girls lacrosse team doing their thing, and then the Schroeder softball team doing their thing. We're going to start off with baseball. First off in the semifinals, it was Palmac ending their season, their undefeated season, coming to a close with a 13-3 loss to Spack and Kill, a Spack and Kill team that went on to win the state championship. Carl got the tail end of that game as he was getting to McQuaid, but just a tough team from Palmac to play. The eventual state champs, certainly, doesn't take away from the fantastic season that they had this year.
Oh no, it was a season of first for the team. I mean, first year you make playing in the regional round, first time making it down to that round. I mean, to the state semifinals. Excuse me. There's nothing to sneeze at with this season. I mean, the records and the stuff that they kind of set to start off that season is nothing to sneeze at. Those kids keep their heads high. Like my eyes have showed on this podcast several times when you read out the numbers. It was a phenomenal year, and shout out to the Goodness brothers. I know one of you guys are moving on. Good luck to wherever you're doing at the next level. I think Ian, you still stuck with me for another year. So, but not just the players or the coaches as well. The community, the parents were fun to talk to when I was out there for both of their baseball games. All in all, the Red Raiders, successful year, and there's only one champion for a reason, but that doesn't mean that you guys can be champions on the inside.
And then McQuaid, we both split this championship run. Carl was at the Carl was at the semifinal game. I was at the championship game. That semifinal game was a wild one with, some crazy ups and downs, twists and turns. They eventually get a 7-6 win over Massapequa. And Carl, that game really had a bit of everything there.
I mean, you want to talk about players stepping up, players getting hurt, people not knowing the rules. It was just a whole bunch of just going on. I'm confused, parents confused, and the players on the field were confused. All in all, the Knights found a way to pull it out and we end up, like you're saying, the next day in a game that had an unsung hero that we'll get into a little bit later. I mean, the Knights, we all year we've get some praises for Will Taylor. Well, I think this past weekend showed that they were a little bit more than just him, and this all in all a hell of a weekend for those guys.
Yeah, well, what's this rules thing? I didn't hear about this rules thing you're talking about.
Well, I was just confused. One parent knew, but like 5-6 of parents that were near me in the camera had no idea that a pitcher can come back in and pitch. Like Will Taylor began the game pitching, and then after Daniel McAnally, Daniel McAnally, I believe is how you say his name. He got hurt in the 7th inning, and then we were all like, "Uh-oh, we see a kid warming up in the bullpen. Is he going to come in?" And then you see Will Taylor run back out there, and the parents from the opposing team and the McQuaid parents were all like, "Can they do this?" And then there was this one confident parent that was like, "Oh no, he's out. He's allowed to do this." I'm sitting here like, I give up on trying to learn high school rules. I'm trying to, but girls, when it goes from girls lacrosse to hockey and this, I'm learning too much, guys. I'm sorry, my brain can't process all this at the same time. But yes, I was very confused in that 7th inning, which took like a half an hour.
Yeah, now, we talked about Will Taylor all season long, and I talked a little bit before how, he was able to bounce back in that Victor game. he didn't have his best stuff in that championship game. He got roughed up a little bit early, but to come back after, not being on the mound, having a rough start on the mound, and that seventh inning was no picnic for him anyway, but they don't ask how, they just ask how many. And he got all the outs that he needed to get that that semifinal win, get them to the championship. And then in the championship game against Fayetteville Manlius, it was a 4-2 victory for them. I was at that game. It really seemed like a game that McQuaid was just waiting to burst open. They were getting a lot of heavy outs. They had 2 times they were thrown out at home, or 2 on the base paths, one at home, 1 at second. They were just getting guys on base. They were getting hard hit balls. They just couldn't get the runs. It was tied at the top of the 5th inning, and then they finally busted it open in the bottom half of the inning. They got 2 runs there. Ed Hall with the go-ahead double. They got another one in the 6th, but just a great win for a really great McQuaid team. They had 14 seniors on that team, so this was a squad that was loaded to go. And congratulations once again to the McQuaid baseball team. A phenomenal season for them. Back-to-back champions. Moving on to the softball side of things, going with some of our runner-ups. First, we had the Avon softball team, their phenomenal season coming to a close, a 5-0 loss to Greenwich, who went on to win the state championship game. A little bit outside of our area, still in Section 5, Scio Friendship, they lost 7-2 to Deposit Hancock, once again, who went on to win the state championships. Every team except for one in our Section 5 area, Section 5, that lost in the semifinals lost to the eventual state champs. So just a little fun stat with how well these teams did. And then finally, Schroeder winning their first ever softball state championship, a 4-2 win in the semifinals, a 5-1 win of the championship game. Molly Broccolo and the girls getting it done down there in Long Island with their first ever state championship.
Yeah, and that was a team that we had our eye on all season long. We knew that they had star power. As you know, the year prior, they were really darn good. Unfortunately, the sectional titles as far as they could have went. And they proved that, if there was an opportunity for them to advance last year, they may be talking about back-to-back. But that's in the past now. And the ladies did their thing. And it was, like we talked about last week, it's impressive to win 2 games in less than 4 hours or so. And they were able to do that. And the performance that Ms. Broccolo did in those, 4 or 5 hour span was very impressive. And shout out to the Lady Warriors for bringing back numero uno back to Webster.
And then in boys lacrosse, we had one team make it to the state championship game. We talked about Fairport last time, how they came up short in the semifinals. It was Canandaigua taking an 8-1 loss to Garden City in the state championship game, a really powerful Garden City team. They did their thing in the first half. They kept it close. It was a street fight early. They were down 2-1 at the half, but a team like Garden City, you can only hold them off for so long. They ended up losing 8-1 in that championship game, but a phenomenal season for Canandaigua. We're going to talk about them a little bit later on in the show as well, but just a really great team from Canandaigua. It's their style of play, the defensive style of play. It's a tough one to sign up for. It's like, it's like the football team that plays, the triple wing. It's tough to get your players to buy into that, but it just goes to show you commit to defense. You can go a long way, kind of like that Canandaigua girls basketball team as well. They're playing a lot of defense up in Canandaigua, but a state runner-up finish for Canandaigua, quite a season for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you said that. Like, apparently the schools, like, that's how they're getting down. We're gonna style the head coach. That's the AD when you sign up to be a Canandaigua coach. Hey, defense first. I don't care about none of that other flashy stuff. Yeah. We need wins. That's all I care about. I don't care how you get it done. We need wins. So apparently that's the brave way. Okay.
It's a good way to go. It's a good way to win win some games. That's for sure. And then on girls lacrosse, our teams that came up short, Palmac, a tough 15-3 loss to Skinny Alice in the Class D sectional, the state semifinal. Rush Henrietta, a really tough loss for them. They lost 7-6 to Baldwinsville at the last minute. It was tied heading into the final minute. They gave up a goal. Then they had a really nice chance to send the game into overtime with about 10 seconds to go. Goalie makes one heck of a save in the clutch moment. It's just the way, it's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And Baldwinsville did go on to win the state championship game. So Rush Henrietta, we talked about them all season long. This was a team that was coming so close in the sectional championship game. They finally break through. Get all the way and lose to the eventual state champs. Just quite a season for the Rush Henrietta girls lacrosse team.
Oh yeah, I mean, like we talked about before, there was a bunch of talented ladies on that team. The Garrett sisters, the Roberts sisters, Megan Schillinger. Megan Schillinger. Bunch of girls on that team who can put the ball in the net. And like I said before, it's only one team that can raise the title at the end of the year, so that doesn't shouldn't downplay your I guess path or role whatsoever. Unfortunately, it's just the way that you lose sometimes that's going to sting and hurt. But that's life, and like you said, that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
And then HFL in the semifinals, a 16-7 win in Class C over Fulton, making it once again to the state championship game for the sixth time in their program history. But once again, unfortunately, comes up for a loss to the Cougars, 17-2 to a nationally ranked Manhasset team, even in Class C there. They were really something else. I was at that game. HFL, they scored first. They probably controlled possession for like the first 7 minutes, but Manhasset's defense was just dominant. I mean, they were trying, it's trying to be the Whitley Easton show once again. She's just so dangerous, with the ball in her hands, either shooting or scoring. But they couldn't break through early, and then it really, the dam broke there in the first half and into the second half. And their coach had some great perspective. He was talking to me and Bob Chavez, who was there. He first off said, if they played the way they did yesterday, he thought they would have had a better chance, but. He said, and he ran this quote on News 8, like we just said, that's life. You're not always going to win. It's a good lesson to learn. It's something, it's what athletics is all about, is what he basically said. So a quality season for HFL, of course, just ran into a buzzsaw of a Manhasset team there.
Yeah, and I covered that team before the season even started. Off my first introduction to Section 5 lacrosse, and the ladies were, very respectful, and they were very hungry to get to this point. And sometimes sometimes it's the fashion that you lose, and I know that maybe the score and the result is not pretty, but that team was young, as the coach reiterated several times to me, and I know throughout the season he said this was a young team, and we'll see if they can get back to this point in the future.
And then, of course, the Victor girls lacrosse team, doing Victor type things. They just breezed through the state tournament the entire way. It turns out maybe the state championship game was played here in Section 5 against Canandaigua. They beat Fayetteville Manlius 15-7. They beat Queensbury 14-5. None of these games were really in doubt past the first 10 minutes. It was just Victor, dominant. Ava Pronti, the cast of characters, Devin Livingston, Olivia Bruno, Kennedy Shotland. What can you say? They were number 2 in the country. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. But that's just Victor for you this year.
Victor doing Victor type things. That's all I got for you.
That's all we got. I did see on the way out, I saw Emma Workmeister coming down supporting her team. As I was going into the HFL game, she said hi, and I was like, it took a second because I got to connect the name to the face. Is this a former Victor lacrosse player that I interviewed in the past? And no, it was Emma Workmeister. So 2 state titles there for the Blue Devils this year. Two really impressive teams, that's for sure. Also, as I mentioned before, 2 teams that might have played the state championship game in Section 5 as well. But as we alluded to before, we're once again going to hand out some of our awards on our spring season wrap-up show. We've clearly just talked about for the last 10 or 15 minutes or so, a lot of great teams, a lot of great players, a lot of great stuff. Plenty of things to be highlighted, but we picked a few of our favorite here, just of games we covered, teams we covered, things we saw, people we talked to, just a really great way to encompass this final spring sports season. So we're going to start off kind of with our story of the year, our moment of the year, our highlight of the year, something, that just really stood out to us that we're going to remember from this season. Carl, I'll let you go first and hand out some hardware here.
I kind of alluded to it earlier. When you get me stuck and get me whoa, what's going on? You caught my attention, and I got to give you my flowers. The PalMac baseball team, did a story on them before they were heading to the state semifinal. But before we even get to that point, let's talk about how they began the year. 82-0. 82 runs, none allowed. This isn't like Pee-wee, y'all. This isn't, Pablo versus you ever play little backyard baseball where it's Pablo and then everyone else, they got no stars. I'm not talking like that. They're going against people their own age. PalMac isn't some big private school going against. No, they're going against other Class B foes like themselves, and they just dominate them. Just give them to you however you want it. Shutting them out, killing them in the batter's box, doing their thing. And not really bragging about it. They just like, we expect to be here. Gave the Goodness Brothers their flowers and will continue to do so. That was fun to watch on the hardwood and continue to do their thing on the diamond. Chris Financiario Jr. Don't forget the junior. I'm a junior myself, so I'm gonna add that for you, my man. If you're listening at home, did his thing on the mound all year long. This is a dominant team in every essence of the word. I mean, we've had a bunch of teams this year that may have been nationally ranked and rightfully so with the collegiate talent, right? I mean, the Victor girls lacrosse team. I mean, they have a who's who of ladies who are going to play at the next level. Same thing with the Victor's girls volleyball team. Emma Works Mike is also going to play at the next level. I don't know if Palmac has any players of that sort. So that goes to show you just like the buy-in, just how hard those guys were out there playing and just playing for one another. I just went back to that Far West Regional game where we're going there and we're talking to MMJ about, oh yeah, maybe they can compete with Palmac. And we're like, yeah, okay, whatever, the record look all right. And then it got mercy ruled. And it almost like screwed me over because I'm like writing down questions to ask the guys post game. Then I look up and I see the players running. I'm like, man, I got like 2 questions for these boys. So I'm like, that goes to show you like how dominant and how quickly these guys were putting teams to rest. I can't give you guys enough flowers. Shout out to the Red Raiders. It was fun to see your story from afar and then finally being able to see it in person was definitely cool as well.
And I mean, that's the thing. In a sport like baseball, football, basketball, I feel like, kind of the better team wins out. It's easier to kind of rack up an undefeated season. Certainly in football, there's less games, but like, basketball is a type of sport where, kind of the cream rises to the top. Baseball, some funny things can happen. And especially, with that 82-0 start to the season, it takes literally one good hit to change that. And in all those games, not one person put the ball on the bat and hit it really, really far over the fence. It takes one single swing of the bat to screw that up. And that didn't happen for, X number of games to start the season. So certainly an impressive run to start the year. It continued all the way throughout the season. And yeah, like we said, they were undefeated all the way to the state semifinal game. It's really tough to do that in baseball. You don't see that a lot in baseball or in softball very often. So once again, congrats to the Palmac baseball team on a fantastic season. My story of the year is going to be the resurgence of the Irondequoiut boys lacrosse team. They made it to the sectional championship game for the first time since 2013. And in that sectional semifinal game where they beat Thomas, they scored the last 4 goals of regulation. They were down 10-6 in the third quarter. They go all the way back. They tie it up. It was Dan Buckley with the overtime game winner. And, this was just a Irondequoiut program that had been kind of down on their luck. The last couple of years, they were kind of getting back to their ways. But it had been a long time since Irondequoiut was really at the peak of Section 5 lacrosse against all these really talented teams. It's just really great to see a team like that get back to where they used to be. They went 16-3 on the season. Their head coach, Aaron Battazzo, in just his second year with the program, so clearly he's doing something correctly. Noah Gibson, the senior, named to the All-American team. So a fantastic season for him. You've got a lot of young guys coming back. Aiden Greco coming back. The 8th grader, Cooper Moore, coming back. So this is going to be a team that's going to be around for a while. But certainly this year will be the year that we remember that Irondequoiut got back to where they've been trying to get to for a very long time.
Yeah, you sent me out to one of their games against Schroeder early on in the year, and you were like, okay, like they're a solid team, and like we're just gonna see if we can see what they have. And the game wasn't like nothing crazy. But what was funny is Cooper Moore, the 8th grader, I see him get a couple goals late, and I'm like, not to be I'm like, man, it's not the biggest kid on the field at all, and he over there making it happen. I'm like, clearly talented. And then you look at his stats this year. My man was really doing his thing out there as an 8th grader in Section 5. I mean, 35 goals, 22 assists. So the future's bright for that program if he can able to take the next step and replace big shoes to fill like Noah Gibson had. He was a physical presence out there. Met his dad, who was actually part of the flag football story. It was kind of a small world. But no, for real, that team was impressive to watch from afar. And I was able to catch them a couple times in person. And knowing the history of that program, it was cool to see them get back to where they belong.
And Noah Gibson going on to play at the College of St. Rose at the next level. So a fantastic season for him. Once again, like I said, All-American status. So a really great year for Irondequoiut, and we'll see if they can build on this in the future. We got a lot of great talented players coming back from Section 5, and certainly a lot of them reside in Irondequoiut. Moving on to, we'll go with our player of the year next. Just a player that, really stood out Like we've mentioned all throughout the show, we got a lot of great candidates to go to, but we're each going to pick one that we really want to, as we've said, give our flowers to. Carl, your player of the year for the spring sports season.
There's a bunch, and I'm not trying to throw a slight at any of them. The one that comes to mind is Ava Pronti, just phenomenal for what she's just not done. And I feel like I can just give her like a full year thing based on what she was doing hardwood and all that, right? But if we're just going to stick it to the spring season, with the games that I saw, I think Molly Broccolo, the performance that she put on this year, and specifically that last weekend, is impressive. It's one of those things that you dream of when you're a kid. Just to talk about what she did this past weekend. So she had to pitch 2 complete games. One game was at 11:15, and I believe the state championship game was at 3:45, if I'm not mistaken. She was efficient. She was hitting her spots, and they just really couldn't get solid, great contact on her. And that just does as a kind of a microcosm of her entire season. Helping leading the Lady Warriors to their first state championship in program history. And they had a bunch of talent on that team. They, Kristen Clement comes to mind. I know she hit a couple home runs when I was there. But Molly Broccolo this past weekend, big time players made big time plays in big moments, and she clearly did that for the Warriors. Retired the first 11 batters in the state championship game, so she was locked in. Their arm wasn't tired whatsoever. She was a Section 5 tournament MVP, and she clearly parlayed that performance into something even greater at the state championship level. She's going to stay in the area, so if y'all want to watch her next year, she's a U of R commit, so she'll be around for quite some time, and we'll see if she can take her talents to the next level and do the same thing.
And just the mental focus it takes to get that done throughout an entire day, obviously, especially at softball, these girls have a lot of experience, playing many games in many days and things like that. But in the state championship environment, all the pressure's on you. I believe in that first game, it was pretty close. I think they busted it open in like the 5th inning, something like that. Just to have all that weight on your shoulders. And like you mentioned, with the number of pitches she threw, that's trusting in your teammates a lot to get the outs when the other team, when you put them in the strike zone, obviously in a difficult way for them. But just the Schroeder softball team, just a fantastic season. Molly Broccolo. Luckily, we finally figured out how to pronounce her name.
Saw her a couple times this year, and never really looked like people really didn't get her number this year. And I believe they only had 1 loss in Section 5. I believe that was Thomas, if I'm not mistaken. And ever since then, they ended the season on a 14-game winning streak. So Section 5 really couldn't rock with them, and clearly the rest of the state couldn't either. So shout out to the Lady Warriors, and specifically Miss Molly Broccolo.
All right, now for my player of the year, I'm going to cop out a little bit. I'm going to pick 2 players, all from the same team, kind of give this as a team award. We're going to go with Jack Faiola, the junior goalie from the Canandaigua Braves. And I'm also going to give some love to Eric Platten, the senior defenseman going to Yale, the 2-time All-American. I was going to go just with the goalie, but we got to give some love to the defense as well. It's a team award whenever you play this good defense. As we mentioned before, this is a Canandaigua team that just thrived on defense. They thrived on shutting, taking the air. I don't think there's any air in the ball, perhaps, but they took the air out of the ball some way, and they just shut teams down all season long. They only gave up 100 goals on the season, and they played a lot of games. That's a goals per game average of 4.54 goals per game. The Boys Lacrosse website stats, on the goalies' goals allowed stats to the team stats were a little bit off. But we're just going to go with the overall team allowed stats that I got. 100 goals allowed. That's less than 5 a game. That's like soccer numbers a little bit, It doesn't make our life very easy to get highlights of this team. That was for sure all season long, but it got them a lot of wins. And in this playoff run that they went on, they allowed 8 goals to Spencerport, 5 goals to Victor, 3 goals to Irondequoiut, 5 goals to Hamburg, 1 goal to West Genesee. Big bad West Genesee in the state semifinals. They gave up 1 single goal. And then, as we mentioned, a loss to Garden City, but still, they only gave up 2 goals at the half in that game. Just a phenomenal season from the Braves defense as a whole. Jack Faiola, Eric Platten, leading the way for the Braves. What more can you say? When defense steals the show, when you're thinking like, who was the best player of the year? And we go to a defender, we go to a defense. That just goes to show you how good the Canandaigua Braves, that side of the ball was for them.
I remember earlier in the year, you sent me to the Penn Yan and Canandaigua game, and you're like, yo, this is a rivalry game. And then coming out of it, they won 8-0, and we're like, maybe Penn Yan's young, right? Young roster. Maybe they just can't rock with Canandaigua this year. But I think that game really showed how dominant they were defensively, and they were so dominant that by the time I got there in the fourth quarter, I believe it was a 6-0 game, Faiola was already out the game. I didn't get any fights of my man getting the save, so I apologize for that, my boy. But that clearly showed you no goals to a Pinion team that won a sectional title, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yep.
Yo, what are y'all serious here? Like, you're right. I think it would have been kind of wrong just to give it to the goalie. The man, that's clearly just an entire team award right there. That defense was annoying to cover. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry, Braves fans, but hey, it's not what I don't care what I think. Y'all clearly the style worked. You guys went all the way to the state championship game. And Faiola, you did your thing this year, man. I'm sorry that specific game though I couldn't get a light. Tell your coach to keep you in a little bit longer when they see the guy with the camera on the sideline.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and just some of the others games, you mentioned the shutout against Panyan. They only gave up 5 goals to Fairport. They only gave up 2 goals to Brighton, 3 to Hilton, 4 to Corning. Even in the regular season game against Victor, they held them to 7 goals. They shut out Greece. Just all throughout the season. I believe they did not give up double-digit goals all season long. They kept them to single digits all season long. 0 games allowing 10 goals in lacrosse, in boys lacrosse. Like, that just doesn't happen. So, what can you say about Devin York's guys there at Canandaigua?
Especially with the schedule that they play. It's not like they're playing.
No.
Like, they're in Section 5, one of the best, toughest competitions in the country, and they found a way to just, y'all gonna come to the deep end. And y'all gonna play our style, win, lose, or draw. Let's get it. So, shout out to the Braves.
Yeah, certainly a performance and a year that's going to be remembered at Canandaigua for a very long time. And then finally, our teams of the year. Both teams that we've already discussed in this show, obviously, as we've already wrecked through our state champions. But Carl, your team of the year for the spring sports season in Section 5.
I'm not going to dress it up. The McQuaid Knights. I'm big into narratives, as y'all probably know by now. And this team they all the checklist. They check it all with the narratives, right? You got the star player, Will Taylor, big dog, going to Wofford next year. Sure, he's going to have a great college career. But then we got, the guy who maybe didn't get as much love as he felt he deserved. I don't want to speak for my man, Daniel McCannley, but, Far West Regional, balled out, did his thing, had no idea he'd be on the mound, and then came in for relief in the state semifinal game when Taylor wasn't at his peak performance. I believe went 3 innings, went really well, didn't give up a run, and then unfortunately pulled the hammy 7th inning. He tried to give it a go, wasn't able to push off the leg. Will Taylor comes back in the game after struggling. We talked about this, finished the game out, cool. But they get to the state championship game, and as we alluded to last week, the pitching dynamic for the state championship weekend is kind of interesting. You're going to put your ace on the mound in the state semifinal game, but how are you going to handle the state championship game? Well, for the Knights, and AJ is going to hit on this a little bit harder because he talked to the team afterward. They were kind of stuck because their guy who probably was their number 2 who was going to pitch got hurt. And lo and behold, let's throw the young guy in there, the sophomore. Let's send my boy, we're going to pronounce his name, Matt Wilmarth. We're going to throw my boy out there, went 5 innings strong, only gave up 1 run. The longest he had went all season long. The second win of the year to win your school, to go back-to-back and win your school his 2nd state title. I mean, I'm big on narratives. The narratives don't get much better than that. You got the star player, the young kid stepping up. You got the kid who believed he deserved more love. That team was a team through and through. It wasn't just a Will Taylor show. Man, I mean, you want to talk about into the season that they're going to remember for a very, very long time. Shout out to the McQuaid Knights. It was fun to watch you guys, that state semifinal game, and then AJ can take it home a little bit more with that state championship game.
Yeah, and I mean, this, we knew the McQuaid was going to be really good coming into the season. They had a lot of seniors, a lot of talent coming back. They went down to that tournament in North Carolina. They got beat up a little bit. They didn't get beat up, but they lost some games. They lost a lot of close games, and seems like that built some character from their run. They knew how to get it done. They came up, while they did win the last state championship back in 2019, they did lose a really tough one in the sectional semifinals last year to Penfield, the eventual Section 5 champs. This was, it was a team that was meant to be. This is the team that had the seniors. They had the guys, they were playing the underdogs from Fayetteville Manlius. They did not take them lightly by any means of the imagination. It was a really tough, hard fought state championship game, and they just found a way to get it done. They persevered like they had all season long, and just a state championship for McQuaid, the second in a row. And now, like I kind of I talked to them a little bit, and they touched on a little bit. They've now won the biggest class in the state of New York for the last 2 times. Before, 2019 was their first time ever winning a state championship. Now they've won 2 in a row. So, McQuaid is great in a lot of sports. Now you got to add baseball to that list. The 2-time defending champs from Class AA. Now, certainly, of course, in recent years, amongst the elite programs in baseball for New York.
Yeah, and like shout out also Ed Hall got hurt, I believe, in that first inning of that McQuaid game. Another really good player for McQuaid. My boy ended up coming back, finding a way to get back in, I believe, in the 5th inning. You want to talk about this team? They literally were crawling to the finish line, and they still found a way to get the job done. Once again, shout out to the Knights. You guys had a phenomenal season, and you guys will literally go down in the rafters in your school, I imagine. Literally.
And then my team of the year should come as no surprise. The only reason why I got to pick him is because I got to do the story on him. So I had claims to him. It's the Victor girls lacrosse team. What more can you say? Ava Pronti and company, they only lose 1 game all season long to another top 5 team, which, man, I know that you don't want to be like, looking down on yourself, but like, man, I bet they're like, man, if we could have just gotten that 1 more game, we could have gone undefeated, because they were up at the half in that game. They just let it slip away just a little bit. But man, they don't care about undefeated seasons. They don't care about national rankings. They care about the state championship, and they got it done this year. The first time in program history. We like to compare them to the Victor boys team and all that they've done, but Victor girls, they stand alone this year amongst the top of any team in all of the entire country. They're in all likelihood going to finish with that number 2 ranking in New York State. Just the cast of characters to get it done. And I believe this was who we compared Ava Pronti a little bit to LeBron earlier in the year. I just want to, kind of continue that comparison a little bit. When every time LeBron, he does the ball flip in his hand, it's just the kiss of death like that. That's the Ava Pronti head fake right there. When she's going, when you see her doing her thing with that little head fake, there might be a name for it in lacrosse, I don't know, but when you see her do that little head fake, it's like, all right, the ball is in the back of the net. It's just poetry to watch. When she's back there, in hockey, they call it, they call it Gretzky's office behind the net. When she's just scanning the field like that, she's got all her players running around. It's just poetry to watch. And I talked to them before this state tournament run. I was like, when you just see all this like moving around, you're just like, man, this is what lacrosse should look like. Like, this is, like the beautiful game. This is like the Brazilian national soccer team. This is, getting it done. But that was just the Victor girls lacrosse team all season long. A year to remember. It might not be matched by anybody here in recent years and past years. It was just one. It was just one for the record books. That's for certain.
I want to drive home how dominant this team is, folks, and how, like AJ just said, I don't know if this team is going to come around for quite some time. There are 10 ladies in this senior class alone that are going to play at the next level next year, and I'm not just talking about maybe these U of R, just a bunch of local girls. We're talking Villanova, the University of Michigan, the University of Virginia, Duke, another Villanova commit, Mercyhurst. Like, this is high level lacrosse that these ladies are going on and playing their careers at. And that's just unheard of to have that much talent on one school. And I don't know if it was the 1st or the 4th grade that the coach Frunze, I believe, knew that this team was going to be special. But yeah, I bet she did when you see all that talent at one time, and now they're going off to the collegiate level and doing their thing. I mean, 10 girls on one class, and I'm sure the junior class, they probably got a couple more that's going to be doing their thing next year, and we're going to be like, man, where did they come from? We're going to be like, well, they're behind Ava Pronti and company. I'm sure that's why they didn't get much love. So that team is truly one of one, and it's going to be a while before you see anything like that come around in Section 5 for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that certainly when these ladies are juniors and seniors, like if you just took, the Victor girls lacrosse team, and 3 years from now, if you plop this team, you somehow brought them all together, they could probably go on a national championship run. That was all the talent they had on this team. It was great talking to them, very, humble and hungry all season long. Just, there's really nothing else you can say about the year that the Victor girls had. Shout out to Nikki Frunze and the gang finally getting it done, winning that first state championship. Probably not. It's probably not going to take it very long to get their second national or their second state championship as well.
Oh no, people are gonna say, "Oh man, they're that good. Let me move into there's different ways that we can figure out a way to get Victor to reload, if you know what I'm saying." But yeah, that team's gonna reload rather quickly, I believe.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I was talking to Nikki before. They played in that national tournament, kind of an invite only, thing. They're going to do that every other year, and this is one of the years they're not going to do it. So I think it would have been really nice to get, obviously it's great, they won their state championship, whatever, but it would have been nice to get them a couple more games. The Victor girls lacrosse team taking it done. It is also nice when, we have our eyes on a team all throughout the season. We're just watching them all season long. They live up to the expectations. It's like LeBron. You put him on the high school cover, the SI cover in high school, he somehow turns out to be really great. So we've compared this team to LeBron enough. It's time to get out of the way and end up this show. But as we mentioned, this is our final show of the school year. We'll be back in the fall, but we want to thank everyone for listening, for watching Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and all the different ways to watch us. We appreciate all the love. We love doing this for you guys. We hope that we brought something else to the Section 5 landscape, a different type of analysis and insight. It was really fun for us to do this for you guys every week throughout the season.
Yeah, 100%. I had fun doing it. Again, it allowed me to dive in a little bit and get to know these teams a little bit better outside of just, shooting them for the 30 minutes that we're there. I just hope you guys stick around for the fall, because we're going to have another year under our belt, and, a little bit more fun and bring some more juice. It's going to be a fun year. It's going to be a fun fall, but just to reflect on the past year, I was able to see some sports for the first time up close and personal. And I was just happy that I'm in an area and a region where, those sports are pretty darn dominant. So I appreciate everyone who did their thing this year, and I can't wait for the next.
Thank you once again. That will do it this year for us on the High School Huddle. It is time to finally break the huddle for one last time. Once again, thank you for listening, for watching, for liking and following, subscribing, and all that good stuff. We will see you next year on the High School Huddle podcast. But for Carl Jones, I'm AJ Feldman. Thank you for watching. Have a fun, happy, safe, and healthy summer.